Welcome to On Emergence, a podcast on what it takes to be a human being. I'm Sagen, your host and a fellow human being. In this podcast, we explore a multifaceted and complex topic of what does it really take to be a human being. And you're in the right place if you've been asking yourself questions that you don't know the answers to. And you may not even know where to get the answers from. And today I want to talk to you about making decisions. A lot of my friends know that I sometimes take days to make a decision because it's not the decision that I'm making. It's more that I'm feeling into the decision. I'm feeling what feels good, what feels like joy to me. And sometimes for the joy to emerge, you need to allow a little bit of space. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Sometimes I just decide to be indecisive. Sometimes I allow a little bit of space, and I invite you to do that too. If you're contemplating a decision, if you need to make a decision, and especially if you're pressed in time, if you feel like there is a lot going on and you just cannot make a decision because you constantly think about what are the consequences of you making the wrong decision and how not to inadvertently cause some consequences that you would need to later on deal with. I'd invite you to explore a feeling of trust. And I talk about trust in another episode, but the feeling of trust is something that you can cultivate. And here, when making a decision, really what you're doing is that you're trusting the future version of yourself to be able to deal with the consequences of the decision that you're making. So if you look at it from this perspective, is asking yourself a question, well, do I trust that future version of me? And if the answer is no, I invite you to still trust that future version of you. Because like I talked about my trust episode, is that you survived 100% of all your wrong decisions. So you're going to be okay if you take so-called wrong decision. And on that note, I don't actually think that there is a right or wrong decision. There are different paths that lay ahead of a certain direction that you might take. Maybe there is a decision that will lead you to joy through a different way, a different path, but it's still going to be the right decision because that's the decision that you took. Ask yourself, what would constitute the right decision? How would the right decision feel in your body? So not focusing on the results of the decision, making it the right decision for you, but the feeling that you will have if this was the right decision. So it changes a little bit the perspective because it invites you to focus a little bit more on the process of the decision, because now you're focusing on the feeling that this decision would invite. And it's not an easy endeavor to feel what is good, to feel what is right. It's certainly a feeling that you can cultivate. And the more time that you spend giving yourself space in things like meditation and journaling, and I talked about it in other episodes, the more familiar you become to the feeling of what feels right and what feels good to you. And talking about a situation where you don't have the decision, like you're in this indecision, it's about trusting that the answer will come. It may take an hour, it may take a day, it may take a week. But if you focus on the feeling that as soon as you land on the decision that is right for you, not right in terms of outcome, but right for you in this moment, that's it. You follow that. There's another way to look at it as well, is also trusting that whatever decision you take, it's going to be okay because you fully trust the version of yourself in the future who's going to deal with the consequences. So in this case, making quick and snap decisions becomes even easier. So the more you trust yourself, the easier it becomes to trust yourself. And there are certain things that I do when it comes to feeling into the decision or feeling into the path. It's giving myself space. Even in situations where it feels like space is impossible, I try to take that space. So I'm going to talk about things like you already know, like going for a walk, going for the type of exercise that you like, talking to friends. Because when we carry those emotions of indecision, of thinking about different options, they kind of cloud our mind, they cloud our brain. So talking to someone, talking to a friend, or journaling, I talk about journaling in another episode, it really gives those thoughts space. And engaging in these practices, you give yourself the space that you need to feel into the decision. You open up the room, you increase the space so the feeling can emerge. Because I think we are so caught up in the narratives that our mind is telling us. And that doesn't give an opportunity to really sit down and feel into the space for the feeling to emerge. So if you are in the litany of not knowing what is the right thing to do, take some space. Take it. It's yours. Take it outside. Take the space that is available for you outside. Go for a walk. Stretch your body. Inviting more space in between your muscle fibers and joints, it really helps. Changing your body posture. If you need to make a quick decision and you're listening to this podcast, tuning in from your office desk, have a little bit of a stretch. Allow that space for, in that space, the feeling of the rightness of a decision can emerge. Talk to friends. Journal. Write about it. Making a decision is all about taking space for the feeling of the right decision to emerge. Sometimes I'm being told that I am being indecisive. And it's like, come on, make a decision and just go for it. But the thing is, a lot of the times my decisions are conscious. So I consciously decide to be indecisive. And in that, I also invite this feeling of like, well, I trust that the right thing will come towards me because I don't feel the capability right now to make a decision. And therefore, I trust that whatever comes towards me is going to guide me to where I need to be. And I know that invites a great sense of trust. It invites a different mindset because a lot of the times we're used to making snap decision, come on and go for it. But maybe going for it isn't the thing that you need. Maybe staying with it is what you need. Maybe standing still for a moment is exactly what the situation needs. It's like allowing the muddy water to settle so the mud can fall on the bottom and then the water can become clear and you can see it clearly. So if you are stuck in I put a quotation mark around the word stuck. If you are swimming in the indecision, that is also a decision. You can choose it. It's a choice. You can choose it consciously, and it is completely, totally okay to choose to be indecisive. I find that even the word indecisive has this negative connotation. So you're taking space for things and feelings to emerge, and that is a decision. It's about choosing consciously how do you want to feel into the situation. The first few times I let the decision emerge in me as a feeling, it was a very interesting sensation. It's like in my gut, it felt good. What really helped me back then is observing. So the moment I would have a moment of insight, I was like, okay, I know what to do. And oftentimes it was in my therapy. And my therapist would say, okay, how does it feel? Where does it feel? Where does it feel in your body? And I would quickly try to understand. I was like, okay, where does it feel? It's normally in my gut, the solar plexus. But sometimes it just feels expansive. The right decision, or the decision that led me to where I am right now, which is a beautiful place I'm grateful for, it feels expansive to me. So in that, you can start observing the moments that you make a decision and it feels good to you. Observe that feeling. And then the next time when you are stuck in the indecision and you want to get out of this, you can start looking out for that feeling of that. For me, it would be looking out for the feeling of expansiveness in my body. That's how I know that this decision is right. And oftentimes it comes from giving myself the space. So I really hope you give yourself some space, that you take the space that you need right now to choose a path. And it doesn't mean that you're stuck on that path. There are multiple paths ahead of you. You just don't know them yet because you haven't made those first steps. And you can also linger. Lingering is completely fine. It's almost like our society is obsessed of making a decision and going for it and moving forward. But what about if we stand in the beauty of a present moment and observe ourselves in the indecision and take the now as the only decision, as the only place we need to be? What if there is a truth in the present moment that we're missing, that we're so focusing on when we're trying to make a decision, when we're trying to move forward, to go ahead? Swim in the beauty of the indecision. Swim in the beauty of being in the now. And see what comes up and see what emerges. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this little snippet. And I'll see you next week on Tuesday.